Hi everyone, welcome back to Jasmine Figures It Out. Today I'm going to go ahead and share the story about my son getting displaced by the school at dismissal and how my compassion fatigue from my job that I have worked for the last 16 years played a role in the trauma I experienced from that event. So, if you're new to my channel, I've talked about it a few times. I am in the profession of child welfare. Specifically, the bulk of my career, I've done child abuse investigations, and I've been with my job for 16 years. So, I've seen a lot, a lot. I have seen basically the worst side of humanity in the area of where I live. So I have a distorted view of the world, and I think the world is way much worse than it probably is, or what most people view of their environment. I literally, when I'm out in public or around and I'm with people who have kids, my mind naturally goes to all the things that could be going wrong in that family or that home or that child. I'm always looking at people's kids and kind of scanning them for um, precarious marks and bruises and body language. It's just something I do naturally because of my job and what I do every day. And so it's, I'm talking about this because I've learned more about compassion fatigue in my profession. And I think it's important for helping professionals to talk about these things because we could be suffering from compassion fatigue, which is having an impact on everyday things, or not even everyday things, but things that go wrong are elevated to a heightened degree because of our profession and our compassion fatigue. And I also want to talk about things that I'm going to start doing and how I'm going to, and things that I have done to practice some self care and healing so that I don't have as strong of a negative impact on my everyday life because of my profession and compassion fatigue. So, let's take a breath because it's a lot, and I haven't even reflected on this story in a long time. So, in my last video, I shared about how I sold my car because I have a goal of home ownership. So, I went very suddenly from having a vehicle and knowing like the protocols of pickup in the vehicle, in the pickup line, to being a Walker parent. And my last name happens to be Walker. So just to add to that confusion. So my son, he was entering kindergarten last year, and I noticed on his backpack at after when we went to the orientation that his backpack said Walker because they put bus rider, walker, pickup on the kids' backpacks. And that bothered me because I was like, he can't possibly be a walker. Because in my mind, I'm thinking walker means when school's out, you're just letting him go and walk home, and there's not going to be any supervision. And that's not what's happening. He's a pickup. I'm picking him up. I'm walking home with him because that's how we get back and forth to school. But he has a parent escort because he's too young to walk home alone. And the teacher was like, oh no, there's always going to be someone. That wasn't the case. So on the first day of school, I went to the school to pick up my son from school, and I go to stand at the walk point, and there's two entryways. And so the parents that come to pick up their kids who meet for the walkers, they're either coming from this direction if they live this way, or this direction if they live this way. And there was a crossing of wires and communication, and the teacher thought that she was supposed to send my son over here. and I was standing over here. So I'm waiting for my son, and he doesn't come. And I see all the kindergartners came, and my son wasn't with them. So I asked the person with the walkie-talkie. She makes a call. They can't find my child. Then I find out they released him to the other side. What happened was they're supposed to check ID for the little ones and release the kindergartners to a parent. But I don't think at the time that was really stressed until my incident. They were just letting kids go. So the teachers would walk the kids to the street and then just let them go. And so if your parent was there, great. If not, kindergartner, little 5-year-old, you're on your own. What ended up happening is my son walked and followed. He's such a little character. He loves people. So he's got freedom. He wasn't one of those kids who was afraid to go to kindergarten and be alone. No, he followed his friend home from school, and that parent ended up bringing him back. And gosh, I'm so thankful for her, because she could have just been like, okay, bye, little guy, closed her door and went off, and he's just alone roaming around this strange neighborhood. But she brought him back to the school. So for about 20 minutes, I was in frantic mode, heart racing, scared, stopping every bus, looking for my kid. Didn't know. My mind went all the way to the worst possible thing. My mind went to, he's been kidnapped. He's being held captive in someone's basement. He's being sold off for human trafficking. A child predator got him. This was their perfect opportunity. And even when the teacher said a parent brought him back, he was with another parent, so he was fine. I was like, that doesn't mean to me that he was fine, because I know what parents do to their kids and other kids. So another parent at the school is not a safe person to me. Because of my profession, no one is safe. So it was a very traumatizing experience for me. And I didn't really realize how traumatizing it was until I got into therapy, because I had to do like 4 dedicated sessions of therapy about it, because I was so traumatized. And so it was not just the compassion fatigue that played a role. It was also, I want to also talk about childhood trauma here for a second. And most adults have some sort of childhood trauma, and some of our childhood trauma, yeah, like really really bad things happen and it's traumatizing, but childhood trauma is really how that child perceives the event. It could be something as simple as your mom was 5 minutes late picking you up from daycare, and that was like a traumatizing event for that child because how they perceive that 5 minutes of them being late. My son, who wandered off and I was freaking out, yelling at teachers and things at the school about him being lost, I don't think he was traumatized by this, because he just like, I came back to me and said, I went on a little adventure. If anything traumatized him, it was me being angry with teachers, because that was the only thing he talked about. You were angry with my teachers. Like, he didn't understand that he was like in danger. That was my view of the world, not his. So I say all that to say that why therapy is so important, because we as adults may think about our childhood and think we had like a great childhood or an okay childhood, or we may not have been traumatized, but there could be have been events in our lives that our bodies have stored that did cause trauma because of how we perceived it or felt it in the moment, like what it meant to us. And for me, there were a couple of times where, well, there was one time in particular where I was left at school. My mom forgot to pick me up from school. I was fine, but she forgot to pick me up from school. And there was another incident, but because there's just a lot. I had a decent childhood, but there were some slips in the cracks. You know, parents aren't perfect, and I'm not here to like bash my parents in this video. maybe in another one. No, I'm kidding. But so I I had to work through some of those memories and what those memories meant to this event. So that was one thing that I had to work through. And I also had to work through how my job impacts the way I see the world. And I've never had anxiety before, but after this incident happened, a couple other times I went to go pick up my son at school. Just, I mean, I went through a process with the school. So they changed their procedure. They were on it. I appreciate the principal who's at that school at the time. He really was on it. They were not going to let my son like go missing again. So, I appreciate that. But when I would like walk to the school or go to the school at a pickup, I would have this anxiety, like this impending doom would come over me. I was so afraid. Like I had two panic attacks at the school just because they were bringing him out late and I thought it was happening again. Like it triggered an emotional like reaction that really did it just it an automatic body reaction that did not really make sense to actually what was happening. Like I could know in my mind that everything's okay, that this isn't happening again. He's on his way out. I'm here. They know they always have somebody with him now. And my body would just go some like into a panic mode automatically. And I still did not recognize that I was in trouble because of that trauma and that compassion fatigue until I was at work. Well, I work from home, but I was technically in my work mode, my work setting, reading a case. And in that case, a child, the same age as my child, got temporary lost. There was a mix up and that child got lost. And I fell asleep reading the case. It's never happened to me before. I was not tired until I read that. I fell asleep at my desk. I shut down. My body shut down. And I talked to my therapist about that, and my therapist was telling me about how that is a way that your body will protect itself that is like a sign of like trouble, anxiety, trauma, when your body just literally shuts down to protect yourself from what's coming in. And so that's when I really, really recognized that I needed to focus on like processing this event with my therapist, which we do. Um, the EMDR. I know I'm studying social work and I mix this up. It's either EMDR or EDMR therapy. And it's been really helpful to me. And I believe I did get past that. I haven't had a panic attack. I'm working through that. So that's what happened, and that's how I recognize that I have compassion fatigue. Recently we did a training at my job about compassion fatigue, and someone brought up that one of the physical symptoms is not liking to be touched, to just like it to be painful when you're touched, and like even like hugs, and that I didn't know that that was a symptom because I don't like to be touched and it does hurt. Like you would think like I'm allergic to anything touching like it really does hurt. So I like try not to like hug, touch anything. Like it hurts, it bothers me. It actually hurts. But things like that. And like if you're a social worker or you work in a profession like mine, it is not normal to not let your kids go to other people's house, or to like be like, my kids don't go to other people's house. It's not happening. I'll have other kids visit my house, or I'll take kids to the birthday party. I'll transport, but I'm not letting anyone transport my child. My child's not doing sleepovers. I don't trust other parents. I don't make friends with other parents at I don't make friends with other parents. I don't want to have parent friends because I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know what's happening. I just don't want to know. So what I've been very isolated probably from society because of my job. Um, I don't get close to people, especially people with kids. Um, and I probably might project a lot of my trauma and secondary trauma from reading on cases onto other families just in my life. Just if I see little things and I just think, oh, there's domestic violence in their house, because stuff like that is just not. It's a hazard of the job. It's a hazard of the job that I have to actively work on to not, so that I can have a good quality of life, because it's not healthy for me to live that way. And so those little things are signs of compassion fatigue. And I've been with my job for so long that you could be living away for so long and not realize that your your way of seeing the world is not healthy. It's because to me it's just normal. So recognizing it is important, and being able to like practice self-care once you recognize it, that's also key. So also, getting help, getting help. It's okay for helping professionals to get help. We have trauma from our childhood too. We have life too. We have crises in our life. We have things we're trying to figure out too. We end up having kids too. So another thing is like about compassion fatigue is telling your kids, like, which is something I'll do. I'm guilty of telling my son, like, anytime he would have a problem with another child at school, you don't know what that kid's been through. He could be getting abused and beat. My poor child thinks everybody in his school is being abused and beat because of me. Like, you have to be nice to everybody because you don't know they have roaches all over their house or whatever. And so, like, just stuff like that. I'm putting my stuff on him. So now I'm changing his worldview. So, those are things to just kind of be aware of. And another thing that I learned in the training was that my profession is one of the highest professions for substance abuse, in within the profession, which, it makes a lot of sense because there comes a point where you just want to numb it all out. And I'll talk about it on another video. But my recognizing that I was had a drinking problem, have not, well, I don't drink anymore, but my drinking was problematic to the point that it became where I needed help. And I got help and I stopped drinking. So I've been sober now almost 500 days, almost a year and a half. Whoop, whoop. And I'm going to talk about that on another video. But on this video, I really want to just focus on compassion fatigue, trauma, how events can be exacerbated by our own childhood trauma, our own view of the world and worldview. And so that's the story about my son getting lost by the school, how it impacted me. Now I see a therapist every other week just because I feel like you always need therapy. It's like this place where we live is just a hard place to navigate. So, and I feel mentally and emotionally healthy. But for me, I think that therapy is a good way to maintain mental and emotional wellness. And when I first started therapy, is because I was drowning in unhealth, and now I feel healthy, but I still want to maintain it as new things come up. And even though I don't have a car right now, I take care of myself by getting out. My dog that he just I love that dog. He makes me feel happy. So I play with my dog, even though I gave him the worst haircut recently. That'll be another video. Um, I like to go snorkeling, so I have a little snorkeling day coming up, and I go to church. That's helpful. I'm building good, healthy relationships there. And so, just the little things in life that help you, and just recognizing that it's okay to take care of yourself. It's okay to recognize when something is not right and listening to your body. Like, your body will tell you things. Your physical reaction to things can be a pretty strong indicator sometimes, that something needs your attention. So, thanks everyone for watching my video. I hope that this story, somebody could relate to it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.